Starting and growing a private practice can be really exciting, but it also can be quite nerve-wracking. As therapists, we're not really trained in graduate school on how to start or run a business. So when you're venturing into the private practice world, it can be hard to know where to start, what to do. One of your options is to invest in support. And as a person who tends to be more anxious, I've definitely done my fair share of making investments into my business throughout my time in private practice. Now, everyone's different, and what they need support in and what kind of investments are good for them are going to be different. But I did just want to share today some of the investments that I really stand behind and would recommend anyone and everyone to do at this point. Hi, I'm Dr. Annie, and I've been a therapist for almost 11 years and have been successfully running my private practice for the last 3.5 years. I feel really passionate about sharing my wisdom and all the things I've learned along the way here on YouTube. And I also share my journey of being a digital nomad therapist. I'm currently running my US-based private practice from Morocco. So if you're someone who's wanting to get into private practice or is interested in being a digital nomad therapist, definitely hit like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my videos and you can continue learning from me along my journey. I'm gonna break up these investments into when I first started my private practice and investments I made once I was a couple years into my private practice. When I first was building my private practice, some of the first investments I made were around building a website for myself and my private practice. Now, I had no clue what that meant, what to write, how to design. I do not really have a design bone in my body. And so I definitely made a few different investments around building my website. The first investment that I would highly recommend to anyone and everyone is investing in website copy. Now, at the time when I was building my private practice, I didn't have as much money to really invest in someone else writing my website copy. And so I had to find a way to write the website copy on my own, but I felt really lost. I had no clue what to say. In doing research, I had stumbled upon the Walker Strategy Company, and it's a marketing agency for therapists that really revolve around how to write your copy as a therapist. And so the program that I invested in was the Fill Your Practice formula. Now, this was about $350-ish, give or take. I can't remember the exact amount. But in the program, she talked through basic marketing and what you need to be thinking about as you're writing your website copy as a therapist, which I found really helpful because I had no marketing knowledge at that point. And so she really talked about the importance of understanding your ideal client, why you need to niche down, how to niche down. And one of the things she walked through was how to come up with your ideal client and how to come up with language to speak to your ideal client. And then we kind of took that and she walked through how to use that language and when and where to talk about the ideal client, their pain points, the transformation you offer, even how and when to talk about yourself as a therapist. And I just found her practical way of going about writing website copy to be so helpful. And it really had a good return on interest because a lot of people would tell me how much they loved my website copy, how it felt like it was talking directly to them. And I've even had some people reach out to me saying, oh, like, I know I can't work with you because I'm in a different state, but I just wanted to say thank you for your website. Like, it really spoke to me. And I think that just really speaks to how helpful her program was in helping me figure out what to say and how to say it in a way that my ideal client was going to be able to take in. And so if you're someone who's starting out in private practice, or maybe even if you're in private practice and you haven't really made an investment in your website, specifically your website copy, I think it could be a really great way for you to get started or something to invest in your growth. The second thing that I invested in that I would hands down advise anyone to invest in is SEO. And if you don't know what SEO is, it's search engine optimization. Essentially, the goal of SEO is to set up your website in a way that Google will trust it and will rank it higher in terms of the search results. So let's say someone types in therapist in DC and that's kind of what your website is geared for, then hopefully the goal is that Google will trust your website and show it high up in the search results. Ideally on the first page, I think is the ideal goal of SEO. When I was first starting out, I had kind of discovered this and it made a lot of sense to me. And so I had made the investment in getting one-on-one consulting with an SEO expert for therapist, Christy Platinga at Therapy SEO. Like I had mentioned, I tend to be more anxious, and so I knew trying to figure out the SEO game by myself wasn't going to work. And at the time, she had offered a group program where you went through her course, but then was also attached to, I think, Slack, where you could ask questions and get feedback from her, but on that kind of like online format. But I knew I was gonna need probably a little bit more support, and so I opted to do one-on-one consulting with her, where I got 6 sessions to meet with her to go over the progress I was making on the program that she had. So I kind of was doing the same program, but instead of being connected to the online community, I was just meeting with her for an hour 6 times. The investment I think was $3,000 at the time. I'm sure it's quite more expensive now, but I have made that $3,000 over and over and over again. I would say at this point, 90% of the people who reach out to me say that they find me from a Google search, they find my website. That investment is probably the one with the most direct return on interest that I can easily see. It's probably made me hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point. If you're someone who maybe doesn't want to rely solely on networking in your local community or trying to get on Instagram or social media, SEO can be a really helpful investment, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. The third investment I've made even before I went into private practice is one that might be a little cliche, but investing in my own therapy has really translated, I think, into dollar signs into my business. I am more psychodynamically, psychoanalytically oriented, and so the therapy that I did was much more intensive than maybe regular therapy. For 4 years, I did twice a week therapy, and then that kind of led me into doing psychoanalysis, where I did 4 times a week for 5 years. But I would say kind of a longer term commitment to therapy, I think, could be an exceptional investment for you as a therapist, because I know it definitely was for me. Some of the ways that I think it really helped me were, it helped me really get a solid sense of myself. Like, it really helped me understand the way I think. It helped me have a better sense of listening. Like, it's not something I learned in a course, and it was something that I learned much more organically through the process of just doing a shit ton of therapy on myself. But I think, like, ultimately, it was something that really helped me feel very confident in my own experience as a therapist. Like, I remember when I was on internship, I had been into a couple years of psychoanalysis at that point, and I remember my supervisor being like, wow, I've never had an intern who's had such a solid sense of their theoretical modality. And to me, that was like the best compliment, but I think was because I had just done so much therapy at that point. It just helped me be so much more confident. And I think ultimately that translates into money, because it helps me feel more secure in what I know I can offer to my patients. It helped me charge a premium fee from the get-go. I think it even helped me feel secure enough and solid enough to start a private practice, I think right after I got fully licensed. And so it definitely has helped me make so much money just in the sense of helping me understand my sense of self as a therapist. But it also has just helped me feel more grounded and feeling more confident in what I think. Like, I think when you are going into private practice, it can feel really scary. You're venturing out on your own. You really have to be able to trust yourself. You're not going to be able to rely on your supervisor or her business owner to make decisions for you. And I think the foundation of the therapy that I did helped me trust myself and feel more confident in making some of those scarier decisions, and helped me not feel like I just have to follow the path of someone else. And then lastly, I do think that being a therapist and being a business owner can be quite provoking. It really challenges who you are, your insecurities, the baggage that you carry. Having a foundation of therapy and understanding like what my triggers are, like understanding my mind in a much deeper way. Like that one patient that's really difficult, being able to be like, okay, I think that person is triggering this inside of me, or feeling really terrified to do a certain thing in my business. Oh, okay, I'm feeling terrified because it's touching on this insecurity from my past. I think just having that understanding of myself helps me separate the past from the present and helps those things not take as much control over me as I'm trying to navigate the tricky world of doing therapy and running a business. Okay, so later on in my business ownership journey, I began to invest in clinical supervision. Now, as a psychologist, I had to jump through all the hoops when it came to my education and training experience. For example, throughout my training experiences, we had to videotape all of our sessions, and those sessions would then be played to our supervisor. And even when I was on internship, there was at one point where there was like 5 hours a week where I was showing video of me doing therapy to a variety of different supervision groups or individual supervisors. And so when I first graduated, I knew that I needed some space. Like I think being in that much supervision can be really helpful. And if you're someone who has had to go through something like that, I'm sure it is really helpful, especially when you're starting out being a therapist and you just feel really insecure and unsure. But I think at some point it can be quite difficult to feel confident and secure in your own self as a therapist and your work with people without feeling like you need someone else there as a sounding board or to check in with about certain decisions or certain thoughts you might be having with a patient. And so when I first started out, I definitely took a bit of time, probably over a year and a half, to really just work on my own and work with the patients that I was seeing and really gain confidence in my own sense of self as a therapist without a supervisor. But if you are someone who wants to do long-term treatment with people, I think it can be really worth the investment of getting a supervisor. Like I just hit a point where I was working with some people for almost a year and I just knew that I needed some support around helping them. I think the longer term you work with people, the more complicated dynamics that can arise. The closer you and the patient are and the more your stuff and their stuff can just make it really messy. And so having supervision can really help navigate those complicated situations in a way that helps you help the patient more, but also help them work through maybe some challenges where they might decide to leave therapy abruptly or end treatment early when kind of if you have some support around figuring out how to navigate those challenges, those people might stay and work through it with you. Like I definitely at the beginning of my career, like there were some things that would come up that I didn't quite know how to help people with, but investing in supervision helped me figure out how to get to it quicker and help the patient kind of work through that and then continue in treatment. Obviously, if people want to leave, I definitely believe in them leaving, but there are some people who do just need longer term support. And so getting supervision on how to help them work through barriers can really help them invest in the treatment they need to kind of be successful at the goals that they're kind of wanting to work on. But similarly, I do think that as a person and as a business owner, there are a lot of changes that might need to happen in your business and your work with patients. And since you're working relationally with people, that can bring up a lot of feelings and can have some people kind of acting out or very angry or just have more intense emotions around the changes that you're making. Or at least for me, I've definitely had to go through a lot of changes in my business career. And so supervision really helped me figure out how to talk about it with my patients, how to notice if there's some kind of reaction that they're having that might be hard for them to put into words, and helped me find a way to put it into words with them. And also just helped me regulate myself because obviously making changes as a business owner and a therapist can be nerve-wracking, and you obviously don't want to upset your patients. And so having supervision to kind of work through those feelings is just really helpful. Supervision can just really help navigate the different challenges or changes you need to make business-wise, but how to translate business decisions that you need to make, how to translate them in a way that clinically can be helpful. Because obviously it's a business, but also you're a therapist and you're helping people with really messy stuff. And so getting support on how to do that helpfully is just can be a really great investment for you. Lastly, this is the most recent investment I've made, but it is business coaching. Now, business coaching tends to be kind of a more expensive investment, which is why it wasn't something that I really invested in earlier on. I obviously was able to start my business and kind of piecemeal it together on my own in a successful way. But over the last year or two, I have really had the desire to grow my business and to kind of add on more than just therapy to my business. And I found that I just kept hitting some walls. And so I figured it was time to invest in some business coaching. And I had found a business coach who I really resonated with and I felt like I could trust. The coach I ended up picking was Danielle Swim at Entrepreneurial Therapist. Definitely check out her podcast and her Instagram. She's incredible. But I knew it was kind of time to invest in business coaching because I knew I was trying to do something new. And I also had some money at that point. Obviously, I was running a business that I can invest in getting more support. And I would say that has been a really great investment. She's really helped me work through navigating what to change, how to change, and just been kind of a sounding board on different ideas I've had. She obviously works with therapists as a coach all the time. And so she kind of has a sense of what can be helpful or what maybe isn't a good business idea. Growing and doing something new can be really hard. And if you don't have the money, obviously doing it on your own is an option, but I've just really learned that getting support can help you get there quicker without as much struggle. The one thing I will say for this is that I know there are a lot of coaching programs at this point. There's so many therapists on Instagram that are offering coaching programs to therapists who are trying to grow their private practice or are trying to scale beyond one-to-one. I think for me, I've definitely invested in group coaching programs. And so with my experience at this point, I would definitely caution you to be quite careful about what coaching program you choose and knowing yourself and how much support you're going to want or need. Like if you're someone that's not anxious, you just need someone to give you the information and then you can do it, then maybe a group coaching program where it's basically a course and then you kind of have access to that coach via Slack or a Facebook group or like maybe monthly coaching calls where there's maybe a ton of people on the call and you might not have a chance to talk, but you just want to learn. Those type of coaching programs could be really great for you. But if you're someone who knows that you tend to be more anxious and that you might not speak out as much in group settings, then thinking about investing on one-on-one coaching could be really helpful for you. You're going to have more personalized feedback. You're going to be able to share what you're struggling with more and get accountability with that. Or if that maybe isn't an option for you financially, another option is things like masterminds or like a small group coaching program. Like I did one-on-one with Danielle and then I did one of her masterminds where there was like maybe 5 or 6 therapists and her meeting every week for like 12 weeks. And each of us got to talk about what we were struggling with or what we needed help with and get feedback from her and other therapists. And I would say that was a great middle ground where I was still getting kind of that personalized support, but I wasn't having to pay the like high ticket price of having that specialized one-on-one support from Danielle. And so it's definitely something to consider if you are interested in getting support, which I think it can be a really great idea for anyone at any stage if you can financially do it. But definitely think about how you feel best supported and make sure you're choosing a program that's going to give you that support. Okay, those are my 5 best investments I've made in my career as a private practice therapist. If you're someone who is looking for one-on-one support, definitely check out my link below, everbecoaching.com. I am a business coach for therapists. I specialize in working with people who are wanting to become digital nomad therapists, but I also really love to support therapists who are wanting that one-on-one support in growing their private practice. I especially really love working through mindset issues that might keep you from doing the things that you know you need to do. And so if that's you, definitely check that below. And if you found value from this video, definitely give me that thumbs up and subscribe and leave a comment sharing some maybe investments you found were helpful or investments you didn't find as helpful. I would love to hear from you. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.